My name is Vegh, and on behalf of Herzka and myself, I'd like to welcome you to eCore21. What an impressive room this is. Look around and you'll see leaders of the banking, brokerage, and real estate industry. The quality is just incredible. So what is it that brought us all together? Years ago, a hockey game between the Boston Bruins and the Edmonton Oilers had to be paused for technical reasons related to the stadium lights. To kill some time, the announcer began interviewing people, including the Edmonton Oilers' Wayne Gretzky, undoubtedly the world's greatest hockey player at the time. The announcer stated that Gretzky wasn't the biggest guy in the league, or the strongest, or the fastest, or the toughest, yet he was regarded as the greatest hockey player in the world. So how did Gretzky explain his own genius? In his words, "I don't go where the puck is, I go where the puck is going to be." In that one-liner, Gretzky confirmed that his success did not come from chasing the puck, but from staying one step ahead and by anticipating where the puck would likely go next. In this room, we have assembled almost 1,000 of the most successful leaders in the real estate multifamily world, representing a significant portion of the entire industry, all who had the foresight to stay one step ahead. Listen to who is with us today. Dozens of lenders, brokerage shops, top law firms, title companies, accounting firms, management companies, the biggest real estate prop tech companies, and more than 650 owners representing 40 states. There are more than 300 separate ownership companies of which was reported in our system. 226 own between 1 and 5,000 units, 41 own between 5 and 10,000 units, and 33 own too many to count or report. 2 years ago, I stood at this conference and understood very little about national real estate. I had done business only in New York, but now, thank God, over the last 7 months, Westwood has facilitated over 25 deals north of $1.5 billion in sales. eCore is largely responsible for much of that. The brokerage companies in this room represent almost 80% of our industry. In a sentence, eCore is the place of multifamily deal making. So what is the core of eCore? What makes the magic happen? What's the secret to success in the industry? The answer is profoundly simple. Friendships, relationships. Enjoying what you do and the people you do it with. This eclectic group is unique in the fact that despite their enormously successful portfolios, they are approachable, friendly, and happy to connect. John D. Rockefeller, arguably one of the richest men in modern history, crystallized this idea when he stated, "A friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship." As you can see, eCore allows you to create and cultivate business relationships. It's where business relationships become personal relationships. Gathered here, we can now spend quality time together in a relaxed setting. It's not the stuffy confines of a boardroom. It's the perfect atmosphere for deal making. Whether at the pool, on the golf course, or wherever you feel comfortable, just hearing your peers and mentors speak and share ideas and guidance, you are bound to walk away greatly enriched in many ways. I can honestly say that at Westwood, we feel like we do business with our friends, our best friends, every day. I am confident you will enjoy the eCore experience and benefit immeasurably from being there. I and everyone in the room would like to thank the entire eCore team for all your hard work in pulling this together. It starts with Herzka, whose single-minded focus was to make this conference perfect in every way. I could not have asked for a better partner to do this with. His amazing and dedicated team, especially Chaya and Ovadia, who put in days and nights in non-stop effort as they covered every detail, even when it seemed almost impossible to get it done, as well as the entire eCore staff who work behind the scenes in departments such as marketing, graphics, accounting, all deserve a huge round of applause. Finally, I extend my gratitude to my team at Westwood, easy since it's only one person in Phil Goldstein, who has kept me level-headed while juggling our day job in the office along with making sure eCore was perfect. And now, I'd like to introduce a leader of the finance and brokerage industry and the founder of Meridian Capital Group, our sponsor. The only thing that makes Ralph happier than brokering a successful deal is advising and mentoring others to help them become successful as well. This rare quality, shh, I'm done with me, now it's time to be quiet. This rare quality has endeared Ralph to so many in the industry. He uses his influence to do remarkable amounts of charitable work for communities and also individuals. I'm privileged to have gained so much from Ralph. He has been a mentor and a guide, but most of all, a personal friend and a close friend of eCore family since the very beginning. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Ralph Herzka, Chairman and CEO of Meridian Capital Group.
Thank you, Steve. With such an introduction, I can't even get upset for you for giving such a long speech. It was supposed to be 3 minutes, and it was pretty good. So thank you. Good evening, and welcome to the Meridian Dinner at eCore. My guys told me not to shh, so I'm just going to stand here and wait. Let's see if that works. First, I want to thank the eCore team. They have been absolutely amazing, wonderful, and look what they've accomplished. I want to welcome so many of our important clients, potential clients, former clients. We're all in the room together. Welcome, and thank you for the business you've given us, and we really don't take it for granted, and we appreciate every single one of you. And of course, to the lenders that are in the room, that we have so much appreciation for. You work hard on behalf of our clients, and we thank you for all of that. And you all know who you are, and thank you very much. And of course, I want to thank everyone on the Meridian team for always putting together such an amazing event, and for being so supportive of all my vision and all my drive, and always making sure that Meridian stays ahead of the rest. So, who remembers last year? No one. We weren't here. Who remembers 2019? Everyone was talking about what's going to happen. But last year, we all felt doom and gloom. Let me tell you something, everyone here in this room. Walking around this conference, the exuberance. Everyone's feeling so good about themselves. Values are up. Rates are down. So much optimism. Everyone's feeling invincible. I'm not here to ruin it, guys. Everything's going to be great. But there is one message that I want to share with all of you as friends and colleagues. As the market gets like this, we all stop believing in ourselves. Let's all remember that we all know there's a higher authority, but it's not what we do. It's the way we act. It's always easy to act great when the market is great, but then exuberance takes over, arrogance takes over. And if there's one thing that I tell my Meridian colleagues all the time is, let's just stay humble, let's stay focused, service our clients, that's who we are, and the rest is all up to God. Work hard. Just stay focused and do what you do well. Every single one of you. So many young people have come over to me at this conference and asking me for advice. One guy actually said to me, I'm in the insurance business. How did you start out? How do I get into the clients? I said to him, when you lose a client, make a note of that. He renewed it for 1 year. 3 months before that 1 year is up, make sure you approach him again. We do that at Meridian for years. Many of you know. We don't do every single deal, but if we lose a deal, we track it, we come back to you a few years later, and thank God it's worked. If any young guy, anyone in this room is looking for any advice, I'm a pretty busy guy, but I believe that part of my success is to always help others. We have a really very special evening tonight, so I'd like to show you a brief video about our guest of honor, our guest speaker this evening. I'm used to so many yeshiva dinners, I'm saying guest of honor, guys, sorry. You never know. So I'd like to show you a short clip video about our guest speaker and his career highlights. Please look at the screens. This time I'd like to welcome A-Rod up here. A-Rod, I am not a sports guy, but I know about your amazing career. But what's really amazing is how you've now turned it into an owner of multifamily. You give back so much to so many communities. It's truly an honor to have you here this evening. Please welcome Alex Rodriguez.
Good evening. Welcome to South Florida. What an awesome crowd. Now you know why everybody's coming to South Florida. I mean, this place is incredible, and playing in New York for a long time, it's great to see a lot of New Yorkers down here in South Florida. But I gotta address the first thing that a lot of you came up to me and asked me about. So this might be for probably about half the audience. But a lot of you asked me about the World Series and the Yankees and Fox. And we have a lot of fun at Fox. I don't know, by show of hands, how many have you seen Big Papi in our show at Fox? Any baseball crowd? So, good, because I get enough of that shit on the road. So a lot of you asked me about Fox, but I do want to share one story, because my good buddy Steven said he was nervous to speak to you guys. And I said, there's nothing to be nervous about. 6 years ago, when I started doing Fox, I was really nervous. Now, I'm a nerd. If you come to my home or my apartment in New York, you'll see notebooks everywhere. I don't know about you guys, but I get a thought, a good thought, which is about once every 6 months. I want to write it down. And sometimes you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and, so notebooks everywhere. So when I first started with Kevin Burkhardt and Frank Thomas and Pete Rose, it was a big deal for me because I've never done television. So for the first 2 years, Pete would make fun of me like nobody's end. I mean, he's 75 years old at the time, and the guy had the most incredible mind. He remembered like at bats he had like in 1971, like pitch by pitch. And both of us had that in common. We have this photographic memory in where if I face Steven, that's a terrible example, Steven, I can't see you as a pitcher. But if I face Steven, you're a mensch. If I face Steven literally in 1995, and I would freak Jeter out with this memory. I would remember what pitch, what sequence, everything. So Jeter, we're at the old Yankee Stadium, and this kid, Brandon Merrill, comes to pitch. And Jeter's memory, it's awful. But it worked perfectly because he was like Joe DiMaggio. He was just never thought. I would think about everything, right? So this guy comes in and he goes, who's this guy? I said, well, that guy you faced yesterday, but you also faced him like 11 years ago. And 11 years ago, he threw you a fastball, a sinker, a changeup, and you hit a curveball 2-1 down the left field line. And he looked at me like I was an alien. He goes, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, we're going to go watch that film after the game, and if you're right, I'm never talking to you again. And sure enough, game was over, we went back to the video, and that was exactly what he threw him. He goes, you're a sick son of a bitch. But that actually worked. It was a gift and a curse. But anyways, getting back to Pete Rose, Pete would make fun of me because I would have all these notes everywhere. I have my notes spread out everywhere. And he goes, hey, Rod, we're doing a 30-minute show. We're not doing a 5-hour show here. Like, what do you need all these notes for? Now, the guy did it for 2 years. He didn't have a note until one Saturday. And my producer goes, hey, because Pete was clear. I mean, when you're like that, it's pretty simple. You got no notes, right? Everybody else has something. And my producer in my ear says, Bardia says, hey, is there a little piece of paper? And sure enough, it was a piece of paper like that. And he goes, yeah. He goes, when we come on the air, pull it and read it. I said, great. So we go back on the air, 3, 2, 1. And sure enough, I go, Pete, what's that paper? Now, it's Saturday morning, college football. He says, Alabama -6. In 2 years, that was the only piece of paper that we saw Pete Rose have. So we knew who his bet was. Pretty crazy. Big Pete. You would think about why would a baseball player be the keynote speaker at such a great, fancy real estate company? You know, that's a great question because I'm wondering the same thing myself. But, you know, people always ask me, Alex, why did you get into business? Why did you get into real estate? Well, early on, I had focus and passion. I remember being 10 years old, sitting in my father's lap and thinking about two things, right? I wanted to be a baseball player and I wanted to be a businessman. Today I say I have 3 Bs: baseball, business, and my babies. I have 2 beautiful daughters, not in that order, by the way. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 16 and 13. They go to school here in Ransom, and of all the things I've done in my life, there's nothing, and I'm sure all of you can relate that have kids, that's more important than raising beautiful children with self-esteem and in this environment that is tougher today than ever. I mean, I'm glad most of us didn't grow up with social media. I got in enough trouble without social media. I didn't need social media to help me. Thank God, I would not be here if we had social media. Skeletons would keep coming out. You know, I started my career for business simply out of fear. I was scared out of my mind. I remember, I don't know if you guys saw 30 for 30, The Broke. And we saw so many athletes run into financial challenges during their careers, but mainly when they were done. And it's obvious because the money stops coming in and all of that. So I started really just looking at some data and analytics before it was in vogue. Now everyone's a data analyst and analytics, and it's in baseball, it's everywhere. Data. People forget that human beings also matter. You got to pick up the phone call and actually have human behavior and connectivity. I think Ralph or Stephen, you were talking about this. But I looked at 3 data points that kind of changed the way I thought about my life in investing and thinking about life after baseball. So 3 data points that were really interesting to me. Number 1, the average career of a Major League Baseball player is 5.5 years. 5.5 years. You make 90% of your career earnings from age 20 to 30. So it begs the question, what happens from 31 to 100, right? And then the last one was less than 5% of the 750 Major League Baseball players, less than 5% have an undergrad degree. So those 3 data points, I would short that stock. And it's really surprising that more athletes don't run into more issues. I mean, this is a very, very smart room. And if I just gave you the same data and I gave it to you, probably you guys won't do that much better. Because if you make 90% of your income from age 20 to 30, think about all the things that we used to not know, right? So it kind of made me start thinking about investing early, right? To kind of hedge that one day the money would stop coming in. If I was lucky, I would play for 5.5 years. I never thought I would play for 25, right? And I started investing very early on, bought my first duplex about 20 years ago, sold that a few years later, bought a 4-plex, 8-plex. Over time, built an incredible real estate team, and we grew that portfolio to about 14,000 apartment units in about 15 states all over the Southeast, right? And I'll tell you guys what I tell my team all the time. You don't need millions. You don't even need hundreds of thousands. You know, I want, our secretaries, our team, even if they want to invest $5,000 or $10,000, the key is get used to investing. You know, get excited about investing, right? When you grow up poor, you get scared. You want to keep all the money under the mattress, like my mother. My mother worked 2 jobs. We were lifetime renters. She kept the money, you know where? Not at the bank, under her mattress, because she didn't trust the banks, right? A lot of people in baseball and sports think that real estate is a single-family house, but they don't realize it's a liability, not an asset. I always tell young players, if it takes money out of your pocket every month, that's a liability. My multifamily apartments put money in my pocket every month, right? And that's just really learning the rules of engagement that sound very simple to a room like this, but very complicated to the room I've been in the last 30 years. You know, I'm going to share some lessons that I've learned from some great mentors. Warren Buffett, George Steinbrenner, and Magic Johnson. to share with this room some of the great lessons that I've learned from them. But Warren Buffett always taught me to stay in your circle of competence. Well, I didn't know much about anything because I didn't have the formal education like a room like this would have. I went from my high school prom to a few months later, I was at Fenway Park facing Roger Clemens. So I didn't have an opportunity to go to the University of Miami and to graduate school like some others of my friends are today. So it was an unconventional way of learning, but I learned in school of hard knocks, right? The one thing I always had this ability to just go forward. And I made my first investment. It was a $48,000 investment. I was super nervous. And then I remember that 2 years later, I had about $2.5 million in the bank, and I took $1.1 million, and I bought 60 units. And I'm telling you, I was going to the bathroom like 9 times a day. I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I remember flying to Arizona, and I was more concerned if my 60 tenants would pay the rent every month so I can pay my note. I wasn't worried about Randy Johnson or facing Pedro Martinez. I was worrying about people paying my rent so I can do good for my banks, right? And that was kind of the genesis of my career in investing in real estate very early on. Very scary, but really rolling up your sleeves. The minute the season ended, I would go and walk all my units, every single one of them. I would knock on the door, I'd say, hello, I'm your landlord. They're like, what? You my what? I'm like, actually, no, it's my cousin. And then the lawsuits came. That was a mistake. Don't do it. The last 11 years, it's been one of the most incredible runs in the stock market, in the real estate, and you name the real estate, right? Land, warehouses, houses, multis, hotels. Obviously, we had COVID and we had some setbacks. But over time, you've never been in a better country. Everybody in this room, every single person in this room, every single person in my neighborhood, every single person where my mom lives, my brother and my sister, every single one of them lives better today than John Rockefeller lived when he was the richest man in the world. There's no better place to be in the world than the United States of America. It's the greatest country. It's the greatest country with the most opportunity, and you don't have to go to Yale, Harvard, or Princeton to do good in this country. You can learn online, you can be on YouTube, you can do all the things that you need to do to make yourself great. Now, 11 years, it's an incredible run. Maybe now 12 years we're going on. And there's never been a better time. There's never been a time where more wealth has been created around the world than you have over the last 12 years. The last 5 years has been incredible. And there's more liquidity out there sitting in the sidelines, ready to strike. And now everybody wants to get into family in real estate. Everyone wants to get into multifamily. I remember 25 years ago when I first got in, 20 years ago, people were like, oh, multis. Now, Stephen, you've never had a better year. By the way, Stephen has more deals than Don King. This guy's incredible. Stephen, stand up. Take a bow. We've walked real estate before, right? Before my games at Yankee Stadium, after my games at Yankee Stadium. We've been in roofs. We've knocked on doors. We've almost got shot together. It's been great. We've been great. But I'm going to share with you what I've shared with my team last week. When things are going really well, that's really the time to double down on process, cross your T's, dot your I's. Is really the time to get disciplined, right? Everybody gets so excited. We sell 300, we buy 200. It's good to be aggressive, but it's also always good to protect downside. And we were talking with Ralph a little bit before, and Stephen is like, how do you defend in times like this where everything seems so good? Interest rates are down. You still want assets to protect against inflation. And over time, I had dinner with a gentleman who's 88 years old. He's been doing real estate for 65 years or so. And he said, people get so caught up in cap rates. Cap rates don't mean a damn thing because you can write whatever the hell you want in these forecasts, right? People write it up, they don't mean anything. Ultimately, it's how are you going to manage that asset? Are you going to be better or are you going to be worse, right? Because if I buy a 5 cap and I'm a terrible manager, it doesn't matter. If I buy a 3 cap and it's a great location, it's a great asset, and I'm going to put some CapEx, and over time, rent growth is going to be better than my interest rate that's locked in for 10 years, interest only or whatever. That's really the bet you're making. And if you think about it, if you want to hold these assets, you want to hold them for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you're not going to get caught up in what happened yesterday or today. Just make sure you're not over leveraged. Make sure you have good locked in finance and you're on your way. So it's just a good time to think about process and really being disciplined and not get carried away. I do think there's tremendous opportunity. I know that at A-Rod Corp and Monument, say hi, Aaron. Aaron's the president of our real estate company. We've acquired over $1 billion of multifamily over the last 10 years. We're probably going to buy another 500 or 700, maybe $1 billion over the next year and a half or two, if the opportunity to continue to come, if Stephen actually brings me some deals. But I'm going to save those jokes for later. It reminds me of 2009. Has anybody in the room been to Yankee Stadium? Okay, that's okay. Better than I thought. So 2009, we won the World Championship, right? It was the last time we won, unfortunately. One championship in 22 years is not good. George would not be happy about that, George Steinbrenner. The Red Sox have won 4 in the last 16 years. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. God, I wish Poppy was here. Just spent the last 32 days with that sucker. When we won in 2009, I knew we were going to win when we got to George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. And I remember pulling up around 7:30 in the morning in spring training. And I looked around, and I saw a bunch of Cadillacs, Audis, Chevrolets, some Jeeps. It just felt like this team was hungry. It was gritty. And that team, we were obsessed with process. It was egoless. Everyone checked their ego at the door. From George Steinbrenner to the guys cleaning our jocks, we were all connected. We were all one. There was no hierarchy. There was none of that BS. We were locked in from day one. And sure enough, November 4th, 2009, with big lefty Andy Pettit on the mound, and then he handed the ball over to Mariano, we were able to close that championship for the 27th title in franchise history. And then we went on in 2009, and we go into this banquet circuit. Banquets like this, where we receive awards, and they tell us how great we are, and you're this, and you're that, and all this other nonsense that doesn't matter. Nothing is going to help us win in 2010, but they're telling us how great we were in the past. And we believe it. We feel good about it, 2010, I remember pulling up, and I was so hungry. I wanted to repeat because it was so freaking hard to repeat. It is so hard to repeat. That's why only a handful of teams have done it over the last 125 years. And I show up to camp, and I pull up to the same George Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, and I look, and it's Jeter and I pulling up at the same time. And I see a Ferrari, and I see a Lamborghini, and I see a Mercedes, and I see a Corvette. I don't even know how to say these names of these fancy cars. And a Rolls Royce, and a Phantom. Freddie, you know those cars, the Phantoms. All the cool kids had it. And Jeter and I pull up in our 2 Suburbans. And he's got number 2, and I got number 13. And the boss was meticulous. I mean, if you didn't park in your parking spot, your ass would be told. And I said, oh, shit, we're in trouble. We had all these fancy cars. We had fat bellies. We were comfortable. We were no longer obsessed with the process. We weren't as gritty. We weren't as resilient. We weren't as disciplined. And as a result, even though we had a better team, with deeper bench, with better pitching, with more experience, we got our asses kicked. So what I'm saying to a room like this is, times are good. And 2009 just happened. Let's not let 2010 happen to anybody else. It's just a good reminder. And Erin's really good about this. She reminds us all that times are good, but they're not going to last forever. And we want to be in the best position possible, because things will be corrected. And when they do, you want to be in the best position to strike. Just 3 quick lessons from 3 really great mentors. In my life, my father left when I was 10 years old, and he left my mother behind and my 2 siblings, Joe and Susie. They're both older. I'm the baby in the family. My mother worked 2 jobs for as long as I can remember, She was a secretary in the morning. She served tables at night. I went to the Boys and Girls Club where I learned how to play baseball every day. And I did my homework. And then there was a famous blue couch that I used to sit at every day. And I would sleep there till my mom picked me up or till some nice, generous parent would give me a ride home. And it reminded me that the reason why I'm here today is because I've had some great leaders, some great mentors along the way, and the power of mentorship. Mentors and being a mentee. But for me, whether it's, Eddie Rodriguez El Gallo, who was 40 plus years at the Boys and Girls Club, or Miss Morales, my 4th grade math teacher, Coach Hoffman at high school, there has been so many people that have put their influence, their time into investing into me that I've been able to, do the best I can with my career. It's also important for rooms like this to mentor other young people and the next generation because it's very, very powerful. I'll start with Warren Buffett. I just saw him Friday. Today's Monday? What's today? Monday? Today's Monday. Yeah, so I saw him Friday in Omaha, and he's 91 years old. And Warren's been mentoring me for about 21 years. And how we got together was nobody would insure my contract because, believe it or not, at the time it was too big and it was too long, and they couldn't get an insurance company to take on the whole thing. So Warren, out of all people, took the last 4 years of a 10-year contract, which was the most expensive, which cost my owner $4 or $5 million. Anyways, long story short, when I heard that Warren Buffett was insuring me, I said, oh man, I'm in business with Warren Buffett. So I gave him a call, and from there he said, hey, come on up. Yes, we are in business. And for the next 7 or 8 years, I ended up going, and he would literally go over all my portfolios, multifamily, and it was the most incredible, most wonderful experience in the world. He's 91 years old. He would always say, Alex, I would get to my desk every day, I would read for 8 hours. Today he's 91, he probably reads for 4 or 5 hours. But sharp as can be. He's like so quick on everything. I said 12 years ago, I said, Mr. Buffett, can you give me some advice? I'm just a young guy trying to do good things. You're my hero. You're everybody's hero. And he said, yeah, I got 2 things for you. I said, wait, I got to take out my notebook. And he goes, no, this is very simple. I said, okay, my notebook's ready. And he said, number 1, be the best player you can be for the New York Yankees. And number 2, he said, be a gentleman. I said, that's it? He goes, that's it. And I wrote it down. and he kept it that simple. And I reminded him of that on Friday, and he had a big smile. But really talked about making concentrated bets. He thinks diversification is a bunch of crap. Really, sit on the sidelines, but when you get a pitch, get a fat pitch and hit it out of the park. Don't mess around. He always told me that. And really stay in your circle of competence. And that's why I started with real estate. Magic Johnson. It's really important to have people in our community. Now, you guys are a strong community. But, I didn't grow up in a community where I had Latinos wear suit and tie every day to work. I saw a lot of examples of great players. I saw a lot of examples of people doing the wrong things in the neighborhood. But we lacked, or at least I lacked, people of color doing great things, being great leaders of big companies. And when I saw Magic Johnson, it gave me incredible hope that a guy can have a Hall of Fame career and transition into the boardroom and have a Hall of Fame career in the boardroom. I thought that was exceptional. And I said, oh my God, if he can do it, so can I. And I'm sure all of you at some point said, if he can do it, whether it's my dad, my uncle, whoever it is in your community that helped you, that was a big impact for me. So Magic started mentoring me about 25 years ago, and I had a dinner with him about 20 years ago that really changed the landscape of my business career. And he met me for coffee, which I always say, people, take the coffee, take the lunch, make the call. Magic Johnson said, if you go to a city, you don't have breakfast, lunch, and dinner scheduled, you're failing. Get out there, connect. People are so damn shy. I always tell my people, get out there, man, call people. You're the poster boy for this, Stephen. Get out there and connect. People are so into their damn phones and Instagram and all this other crap. Like, you got to connect with people. That's the way you make things happen, right? And fortune favors the bold, right? It's really important. So he actually taught me this. He said, when you're going out there, all these great cities, everybody's going to want to meet with A-Rod. But guess what? Once you get in the room, what's going to happen? You'll take the picture, they'll give it to their grandkids, but nothing else happens. When you walk in that room and that door opens, the key is to stay in that room and to make an impression and to overperform. I just love that about magic. And if 25 years in that meeting that was supposed to be 30, 45 minutes, it was about 3.5 hours. And he laid out his whole roadmap of how he's been able to build this multi-billion-dollar platform. It's incredible what he's been able to do. And to this day, I've applied some of those virtues and lessons to my business today, which is pretty fun, and I'm so grateful for it. And then the last one I'll tell you is George Steinbrenner, which George was, for me, the greatest boss in the world. George talked about the importance of accountability, no bullshit. He wanted tough people. He loved the warrior. He called Paul O'Neill the warrior, right? He loved Mariano Rivera. He would show up at 7 o'clock in the morning blasting his Ohio State band. At 7 o'clock in the morning, I go, boss, that's pretty loud. He said, shut up. I'll tell you what's loud. And then he would say, Alex, you're just like Reggie. You're a pain in my ass. But you hit home runs and you put asses in my stadium. So let's go out and win the championship. I want to say to this audience, I'm humbled to be here in front of you today. I thank you for listening to me, and have a wonderful night. Thank you very much.